A common question I hear a lot when it comes to horseback riding, and especially new riders or new horse owners figuring out what works for their horse, is wondering what type of bit your horse needs. So there is a science behind choosing a bit for your horse, and today I wanted to cover everything I know about horse bits. In this video, I'm just going to be covering snaffle bits because there's many different types of snaffle bits, and that's probably what you're using as a rider. So let's get into it. We're gonna start with the straight bar bit. So this is just a straight piece of metal that goes in your horse's mouth. There is no joints to it. And this is considered a very soft bit because there's no point that can turn into your horse's tongue. The only way that this is really gonna communicate with your horse is by the bit hitting the bars of the horse's mouth. The bar of the mouth is kind of where the horse's gums are. So there's like a space in between teeth that the bit lays. And so when the bit moves, it kind of hits the side of the mouth. So really the straight bar bit is only hitting the side of the mouth when you communicate with the horse. Usually many people use straight bar bits to start young horses just because they're really soft in the horse's mouth and they're really gentle, and it's a great way to start introducing pressure to the horse. The next bit is probably the one we're all most familiar with because this is just like the stereotypical snaffle bit you're gonna see, and that is a two-piece bit. So with a two-piece bit, you have one joint in the middle of the bit, and this bit is considered a bit more harder on the horse's mouth just because with that single joint in the middle of the bit, it can turn the bit and that point can press into the horse's tongue. So not only do you have the bit hitting the bars of the horse's mouth, but then that point can also press into the horse's tongue. So when you're riding with the two-piece bit, you wanna make sure you're riding with really soft and light hands, because if you are too hard with these bits, that horse is gonna have a lot of discomfort with the point and that joint hitting their tongue. Next up, we have a French link bit, or you may also hear this referred to as a three-piece bit. And with these bits, you have two joints on the bit and then one metal piece through the middle. So these are considered a softer bit as well because there's not really a point that's driving into the horse's tongue. This bit allows the horse to kind of move. The bit moves with the horse's mouth, and it's a lot softer. So once again, with this bit, you do have the sides of the bit pressing down on the bars, but overall it is a softer bit. So out of all these bits so far, the French link and the straight bar bit are the softer bits you can use on horses. Next, we're gonna start getting into bits I would consider more harsh. And what I mean by that is they can put a lot of pressure on the horse's mouth. So you may see people use these if you have a horse that's really, really forward or that tends to ignore rein aids or may tend to lean on the bit and fall onto the forehand. I will say more about these bits, but right now I'm just going to cover what they are. So firstly, we have a twisted bit. This can come in a few different styles. You have like a corkscrew, or you could do a slow twist is another kind. So here on the screen, you can see I have 4 different types of twisted bits, and they range in severities. So here you have one that's like a really slow and gradual twist, and then you have one where the complete bit is just made out of twisted metal. And so another thing to remember with these bits is the thinner they are, the harsher they're going to be. So you can see down at the bottom, you have some really thin and twisted bits, so those ones are going to be more harsh. The reason you want to be careful with these bits is because the turn on the bit and those twists, they can kind of jab into the horse's mouth and into the horse's tongue. And so that's why this is considered a harsher bit, because you have these edges that can now press against the horse. Speaking of bits, let's talk about phone cases. Totally different, but here is one of our phone cases we have for sale on our Etsy store. This is one of our best-selling phone cases. I love it. It comes in basically any phone size. So I have an iPhone 15, I believe. So this is iPhone 15, but it comes in Samsung, Android, whatever else there is out there. Check it out. The link is in the description and it's on our Etsy store. Next up, we have a Waterford bit, and this type of bit just is made out of joints. So there's quite a few different pieces to the bit, and you have maybe 3 or 4 or 5 joints within the bit. And this is also considered a harsh bit because depending on how the horse is moving and the rider's hands, these joints can create really sharp points that press against the horse's mouth. And so with that two-piece bit, you only have one joint, remember? But with this bit, you have quite a few joints that can each have their own effect on the horse. These bits are really made for horses that tend to lean against the bit because it's thought of like those sharp joints are going to kind of press back and keep the horse back instead of leaning. So that's the point of the Waterford bit. Lastly, we have a port bit, and a port bit is where the bit is raised in the center over the horse's tongue. So the horse's tongue can kind of extend and move around, but the top of this bit is pressing up against the horse's mouth. And so there's quite a few different reasons for this. Number one, some horses will kind of brace their tongue against the bit, and then that can just create a whole different change in how they carry themselves. So these bits are designed to keep the horse from bracing its tongue against the bit. But then again, these bits are harsh because they're pressing into the horse's mouth, and it can just be a bit uncomfortable for the horse. And then of course you have the bars on the side where the horse is also going to feel the pressure on the bars. So the port bit is considered another bit where if you are riding with this bit, you need to be very aware of what you're doing, and you have to have really soft hands. Now there are some other types of bits where instead of being like a specific type of bit, you can see just different bits like this, and they have these different features. So one are roller bits. So you can get any type of bit and they can have rollers on the bit. And this is great for like nervous horses or horses that may be anxious, because it actually gives them something to play with in their mouth. So the roller is exactly that, where it just like rolls back and forth and the horse can move their tongue and the bit will roll. And so up here I have a picture of two different kinds of roller bits. You can see like one of them has it on the side, and then the other one has a French link bit, but that centerpiece is the roller. And I actually use this on Tucker because he does tend to be a bit more of a sensitive or anxious horse, and I just found like this helps him kind of focus more because he has this thing in his mouth he can play with. Another type of bit that I love and I use like no matter what, I am so for these bits. They're called Happy Mouth bits. And these Happy Mouth bits are covered in rubber, so they are very soft on the horse's mouth, but they're also like apple flavored, and the specific type of rubber they use is made for the horse to like kind of salivate and receive the bit. Because the thing about horses is once they kind of start salivating, it helps them relax. And so these Happy Mouth bits are great for young horses or just any horse. Like I use a French link Happy Mouth roller bit on Tucker. So not only does he have the softest type of bit he can get almost with the French link, then he has a Happy Mouth, which makes it even more soft because it's the rubber, it's not so harsh, and then he has a roller that he can play with. So love the Happy Mouth bits. I just got a Happy Mouth straight bar bit for Ruach because Ruach is a young horse, and I just think that type of bit would greatly benefit him. It's very soft, it's very kind of inviting to use. Now, when it comes to choosing a bit for your horse, what are the steps you should take? There's a few different things to ask yourself. Number one, why do you want to choose a different bit for your horse? Like, is there something specific going on with your horse? Is there a certain behavior you want to try and correct? Because what I notice in the horse world is people just tend to throw bits in their horse's mouth without really knowing what the bit is doing, first of all. But then they also think a bit will change their horse's whole temperament, when in reality, I have never seen that happen. And I've been around horses like 20 years. And it actually brings back a memory I have where I had a really forward little pony who, she was just very quick. And she could get heavy on the forehand and just be really kind of all over the place. I thought I needed a harsher bit on her. So I started out with just like a 2-piece bit, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna get like a slow twist bit, and maybe that would settle her down or just help her come back to me. I got the slow twist bit, nothing really changed, and I was just making all these decisions on my own. Then one of my trainer friends saw the type of bit I was using, and she was like, hey, maybe instead of trying this bit, you need to do these other things to help the horse out. And really, the problem is stemming from the way I was riding her, and also just her needing certain exercises to carry herself correctly and learn how to come back to me and things like that. So my point is, a lot of the problems we think that bits will solve actually go back to just a basics problem. Like, first of all, are you riding and communicating correctly? Number two, is there anything you can do to help the horse figure out how to move in the way you want them to? Because usually, if you have a horse that is heavy and you feel like is leaning on the bit, there are definitely exercises you can do to stop that behavior. Like you can do a lot of transitions and just things like that where it gets the horse rocked back and into your hands. A bit is really just a band-aid and it's not solving the root problem. So before you go changing your bit on your horse, we need to focus on solving the root problem and asking ourselves what really is the behavior we're trying to fix before we go on to changing our bit. Let's say you just got a new horse and you don't know what type of bit to use on them. I would say a great bit to start with is the French Link or the 3-piece bit. Like I said, this is a really gentle bit, but it also does give you control when you need it. So start with the French Link bit and go from there. And like I said, before you make any changes, make sure you evaluate the behavior and what could be going on before you switch the bit. If you just feel like your horse does not like the bit that's in their mouth and they're like kind of fighting it, or they're just very like mouthy and chewy, there can be a few different things going on, but what I would recommend is that happy mouth bit, because sometimes if you have a bit in that horse's mouth that has sharp edges or sharp points, that can be uncomfortable for horses. So getting a happy mouth bit, or even going to like a straight bar happy mouth bit, it's the softest bit you can get. See what happens with that. Another point to that is making sure the bit fits correctly, because if your bit is too small, it can pinch at the horse's mouth, and if it's too big, it can just be really wide in the horse's mouth and feel awkward. So the way you measure for a bit, you get a piece of string, put it in your horse's mouth, side to side, and then you can measure that string and see what size bit you need. For a normal size horse is usually a 5-inch bit. Tucker, my pony, he's tiny, he has a very narrow face, he has a 4.5-inch bit. So it really just depends. You're gonna have to measure with that string to make sure you get the right fit. And just a quick reminder, be sure to check out our phone cases on Etsy. This is just one of our designs, so the link is in the description and go check that out.